Avoiding your unfinished home projects because you're not sure where to start? Thumbtack knows homes, so you don't have to. Don't know the difference between matte paint finish and satin? Or what that clunking sound from your dryer is? With Thumbtack, you don't have to be a home pro. You just have to hire one. You can hire top-rated pros, see price estimates, and read reviews all on the app. Download today.
Hi there, and welcome again to the Explaining History podcast. And yes, this morning we returned to the Straits of Hormuz. So it's been a couple of days since I've talked about what's been happening in the Persian Gulf, and obviously events race forward at such a pace that we can only really, on a podcast like this, look back on the last few days in this kind of catch-upy sort of way. Otherwise, it becomes a different kind of current affairs podcast, and that's maybe not the direction it needs to go in. I think that this is a moment of kind of supreme significance and importance for the 21st century. I mean, if you look beyond the fact that decision making in America has broken down to the extent that you have this demented former reality TV star kind of hustler crook who in his own egotism and sort of megalomaniacal hubris is at that place where he doesn't know what he doesn't know. He assumed that he could create some kind of media noise by an attack on Iran, and had no idea that an exit strategy was needed. Seems to have overruled military planners and generals who know about this sort of thing, and has gone ahead with it regardless. Which again, it shows you that the system of decision making in America has kind of decayed to a level of almost complete chaos. If any of this is possible at all, it shows you that America is now under Trump capable of launching itself into no-win scenarios. Now, it's a no-win scenario partly because Iran has been preparing for this moment for a very long time. The use of drones, of artillery and rockets and missiles and mines and attack boats make the safe navigation of the Straits of Hormuz virtually impossible. And of course, once you come through the Straits of Hormuz, on your approach to the Straits of Hormuz, you can still be attacked. The idea that there will be a naval flotilla, firstly, the most laughable idea that there will be an internationalized naval flotilla, or everybody from the Chinese to the British to the French to the Koreans, shipping oil through the Gulf, much of which will go to America, is a kind of is for the birds. This is the pleading of a desperate man. But assuming that did happen, what you have to tack onto the end there of that sentence is the word forever. You have a permanently hostile Straits there, and Iran will interpret any passage through the Straits that is not agreeable to them as a hostile military act. And it will be the graveyard of empires, the graveyard of navies. I mean, an example of this is the Dardanelles campaign. One of the reasons for the landing at Gallipoli was to secure the Straits. And the reason why it was needed to secure the Straits from the fortresses that line them was because the first attempt to sail through the Dardanelles to seize the Turkish capital, the Ottoman capital, ends in disaster. British and French ships are sunk, and you're sailing your ships through a killing zone. And that's precisely what the Straits of Hormuz will be. It doesn't matter how big a navy is. And America has a large navy. How many capital ships is America willing to sacrifice in the pursuit of a war that Trump started on a whim? How many hundreds, if not thousands, of US servicemen and women's lives will be lost before there is an outcry so great it sweeps Trump from office in an afternoon? I would say not many ships have to be sunk to get America to that point. I think the idea that the American population in this instance will instinctively rally to the flag is a miscalculation. There doesn't seem to be any indication that Trump's preemptive, off the top of his head war is going to bring out the more patriotic side in the American population, and rightly so. Trump's most enthusiastic lickspittles, Keir Starmer in Great Britain, for example, even they, in their kind of willingness to bow and scrape before him, have had serious pause for thought when it comes to joining his ventures in the Middle East. Britain is allowing American bombers to fly from its air bases. The fact that it's not doing anything more, and though there are serious forces in the British government and Britain's sort of political media establishment and the kind of the Labour Tory Reform Uni Party that seems to perennially rule us. There are many voices there that would have British jets flying over Tehran, but calmer heads have prevailed. And the reason for that, I suspect, is that somebody somewhere from the Ministry of Defence has placed a dossier in front of the Prime Minister and other key decision makers spelling out precisely what this would mean. And an attack on Iran is an attack on a militarily quite sophisticated power It is a power that is able to mass produce cheap drones, and this is one of the great game changers, the great inflection points of the 21st century. Aircraft carriers will potentially not be the tools for the enforcement of world order that they once were, when you can fire, I don't know, a few hundred drones at them in an afternoon, maybe. It looks as if anti-missile systems, Patriot and THAAD and things like that, are becoming overwhelmed by the quantity of super cheap, easy to launch, very mobile and very hideable drones, with motorcycle engines and mobile phones for tracking systems, and a payload that can do a lot of damage. So
At Nature's Bounty, the belief is simple. You already have a brilliant body. Supplements just help support your journey. For over 50 years, Nature's Bounty has offered vitamins and supplements to help you eat, sleep, thrive, repeat. From magnesium glycinate for heart and muscle support to hair growth capsules for fuller, thicker hair. And probiotics with 20 billion live cultures for digestion. Nature's Bounty. It's in your nature to thrive. Learn more at naturesbounty.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
The asymmetry of war is changing, and this has long been predicted. China has been at pains to show off its proficiency when it comes to drones. Those wonderful displays of drone technology in the night over Beijing, where you see sort of dragons and warriors and all sorts of amazing galloping horses and amazing things like that. What are they signaling to the world? Just imagine what we can do if these have got a hand grenade attached to them. That's what they're signaling to the world. And also look at our beautiful technology. So Trump is in a place that he cannot get out of without the thing he fears the most, which is humiliation. He has, as I previously said, come cap in hand to the rest of the world, and the rest of the world has said no. What will he do? Will he shut off flows of petrol and liquid natural gas to Europe? Quite possibly. I would imagine there's about to be a rapid rapprochement between the European Union and Russia. Very, very quick, very, very sudden. And the question of Ukraine will probably now, I suspect, be settled to a greater extent in Russia's favour, as the European Union seeks to access cheap hydrocarbons very, very quickly, and lots of them. When it comes to the urge to become energy independent, perhaps this will now have a huge impact on renewables. And when you can present to a population, say here in Great Britain, the idea that renewables are about security, about national defense, about not being reliant on overseas changes in the volatile Middle East, and when you can present to the British public that renewables are a way of breaking loose from the control of Donald Trump and his whims, I think that might be quite an easy sell. Hopefully, that's an open goal right there for the Green Party to kick a ball through. Anyway, there have been comparisons to the Suez Crisis. This is much worse, much worse. Militarily, the British, the French, and the Israelis, their objectives within the Suez Canal zone were achieved, and it's pressure from America, pressure from Eisenhower, the pressure on mainly in Britain's case, pressure on the pound, that causes the British to withdraw. The Suez is an epic humiliation and a reminder to the British that they no longer have the power in the world to act unilaterally. The British, I was reading an interesting piece by Kojo Karam from Navarra Media about the British and their views of themselves at the end of the Second World War. And the point that he makes is that the British saw themselves as being relative equals with America for several years after the end of the Second World War. They imagined that America would have the muscle and the wealth, but would lack the wisdom and the guidance that the British could offer them, and they would lack the understanding of the workings of the world that the British had acquired. And of course, American military planners and policymakers had very little time for this view, and Britain's world standing and world power, following the loss of its empire, and then a decade or so later, following Suez, went into swift and inexorable decline. Britain sort of switched its policy following Suez to accommodate this new reality, and it was to cling on to this illusory notion of the special relationship in order to allow Britain to kind of punch above its weight, in order to allow Britain to project world power via America. And it was probably, in fairness, at the time when you're looking at policymakers like Macmillan, who succeeds Eden, about the only idea in town. But British policymakers have clung to this rigidly. And in an age of MAGA, it has now finally died. And I think there are... the writing is kind of on the wall, even for the British political class. When the other day you have the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves, not known for her kind of forthright independence of thought, particularly, being asked a kind of very open goal question, I think, by the Financial Times, on if you had to choose between Donald Trump and Ursula von der Leyen, who would you choose? She said von der Leyen. Trump is too volatile, can't be trusted, can't be relied on. And this is the Chancellor of the Exchequer saying this about an American president. And so that's a way of either the Chancellor signalling her kind of, where she knows, I mean, Starmer's going to be gone in a few months, signalling that she's thinking about positioning herself for the leadership, or it is a way of the of number 10 kind of via number 11 signalling that there is that kind of change afoot that matches popular antipathy towards Trump. So Trump is today threatening, brutal retaliation against NATO for letting him down. Well, as we know, the NATO Charter, there's nothing in the NATO Charter that says that member countries have to bail in when one of the countries launches a preemptive illegal war that they haven't thought through and needs bailing out. There's nothing that says that, but this is kind of slightly beyond Trump's understanding, really. So there will be a further break in the NATO alliance. Perhaps Trump's next move will indeed to be just to finally unilaterally withdraw from NATO. At which point we're in a kind of a different world. I mean, I would imagine.
Ever notice how life's best stories don't happen in your living room? They happen on the open road, out on the water, or parked under the stars. At Progressive, they get that you want to focus on the experience, not worry about the what-ifs. That's why they offer quality insurance designed for your ride, whether that's a boat, RV, or motorcycle. Adventure with confidence. Visit Progressive.com and see how easy it is to protect your favorite way to get away. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in D.C. Prices vary based on how you buy.
This crisis in the Gulf either is resolved quite quickly. Trump basically realizes he has no other options than to claim some sort of illusory victory and move on. Or it will drag out for quite a long time. It can't drag out for that long, I would say, because Iran has such an advantage in holding the world's energy supplies hostage, that some sort of resolution has to be found, or we are all plunged into a kind of an endless energy crisis that will last for the next few years. Of course, the other country to consider in all this is Israel. Much of the cause of this conflict has been Israeli pressure on Trump through cajoling or perhaps even blackmail, and the war between Iran and Israel, even if the Gulf reopens, is unlikely to come to an end. Israel is a nuclear-armed state, of course, but Iran has probably got sufficient conventional firepower to cause Israel immense harm. If Israel was to use or to threaten to use nuclear weapons against Iran, Iran can use its economic nuclear weapon that it now has, which it's now done its first test for, which is control of the Gulf, control of the Persian Gulf. And that might possibly put pressure on Trump or whoever follows Trump to force Israel to stay its hand. Difficult to say. It might possibly be that Israel is now beyond any one power's control or authority, and is capable and willing to act unilaterally. This is the great threat to Iran, and no doubt Iran will never sign a nuclear enrichment treaty ever again, and will fast track making a nuclear device. And unfortunately, it's a sad thing to say, but as the lesson of North Korea shows us, they would be wise to. And if that happens, again, Israel has always reserved the right, and it has attacked before, has always reserved the right to attack you unilaterally. So the situation between Iran and Israel particularly is the one that will continue. And it depends on, I mean, the popularity of Israel amongst the American public has reached an all-time low. And it depends on the extent to which Israel is still a key asset for America in the Middle East. And after this mauling from Iran on the basis of Trump's incompetence, and the rebalancing of power in the Persian Gulf, it might be within America's interests now to kind of withdraw. I mean, or they may be forced to withdraw as they from the Persian Gulf area entirely. At which point, what sense it makes to support Israel as Iran's key enemy anymore is debatable. But these are all hypotheticals, and the situation may have all changed tomorrow. But I thought it would be worth just examining it a little bit from the perspective of the Dardanelles and from the perspective of Suez. So anyway, I'll catch you perhaps a bit later on, if not tomorrow. And again, if you are in that part of the world, stay safe and best wishes.
Hi everyone, this is Kareem, the voice of Simon Fairchild from the Magnus Archives. And today I want to talk to you about Boost Mobile. Some things quietly drain you, like an expensive phone bill trapping your money month after month. Here's a quick money tip. Stop paying a carrier tax. When you bring your own phone and switch to Boost Mobile's $25 unlimited forever plan, you can unlock up to $600 in savings. That's money that belongs in your life, not trapped in a phone bill. Reclaim those savings for something you're actually into. An EMF meter, a thermal camera, or whatever strange corner of the universe you're currently exploring. Visit boostmobile.com to unlock your savings and take back control. After 30 gigabytes, customers may experience slower speeds. Customers pay $25 per month as long as they remain active on the Boost Mobile Unlimited plan. Boost Mobile January 2026 survey comparing average annual payments of AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile customers to 12 months on the Boost Mobile Unlimited plan. For full offer details, visit boostmobile.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Explaining History. This podcast is an independent production, and it's listener support that keeps these conversations going week after week. If you find value in the show and want to help cover the costs of research and production, please consider making a contribution. You can join our community on Patreon or make a one-off donation. Just follow the links in the show notes for this episode. Every bit of support is truly appreciated. Thanks again for listening.